now, right now. Right 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 now, right now. Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on the Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. It always has been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since it's been out there. The government has been bigger. Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto. This is your week daily morning show where we bring you the latest in everything Bitcoin, and in today's episode, Bitcoin is just inches. It is so close from a massive breakout above $28,545 and change, and I'm so excited to bring you today's episode of Coffee and Crypto because in today's episode, we're going to be breaking down everything that stands in its way. Can Bitcoin break through this level, hopefully by the end of the week? It is very possible that it could do so, or are we going to see that fateful correction down to $25,236 that I drew on my chart last Friday as being a high possibility? That's really the question that everyone should be wondering right now, because if Bitcoin is capable of breaking well above that level of $28,545, then we will likely go into a major bull market. But if Bitcoin cannot and stays down here, then in a way it is still an accumulation, because while we are in transition, we have not actually broken bullish out of transition, indicating that we are still just very, very, very bullish up in the stratosphere of the accumulation zone. So we've got a lot to talk about today, and I am very excited to bring you today's episode, because today's episode is also brought to you by none other than our very own Club Defi. If you guys are not familiar, you can come on over to cryptojebb.com, scroll down, and check out Club Defi's Principles of Technical Analysis here on our website. By the way, make sure you check out the rest of our website. This is a really awesome website that I want you guys to check out. Go to the About Us page. You can see our mission and our vision and our core values and some of the interviews and guests that we've had here. And then if you go to courses, you can, of course, be brought over to Club DeFi, where you will find Principles of Technical Analysis. You click right here, and then you can see all of the videos here. Tons and tons and tons of content that's going to teach you everything you need to know about cryptocurrency. Guys, I'm so excited for today's stream, so let's go ahead and read some chat. We just got started, and there's already 180 people watching live. Wow, that might be a record. We had 1,197 people. That's how you say it in the South. I'll say it the proper way. We had 1,179 people tune in yesterday, and I think we might just break that if you guys give us a hand here and hit that like button. Guys, the channel's growing. We are gaining a lot of new subscribers, getting a ton of views, a lot of watch time, and you guys are getting a lot of great content. Very excited for what the next few months hold. Although, unfortunately, the baby's not even here yet. I got a full 8 hours of sleep, and for some reason, I just feel absolutely exhausted. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the donut and coffee I had yesterday. Maybe that did it. Maybe that's what did it. Well, who knows? We'll see. I'll try and eat a little more healthy today and see if I feel better tomorrow. Alex Nibo was first. Good morning to you as well, Alex Nibo. Wisely T with the copy and paste. Wisely, I'm going to call you out here because the stream had been up for a grand total of about 3 seconds, and you typed out a full 3 line long message, so I'm pretty sure you had it with the copy paste. I think you were trying to get first. Somehow Alex Nibo stole it from you. Anyway, Wisely T said, good morning, Jebb and everybody. I'm back watching live after sleeping in all last week for spring break. Bull market when? Question mark. Very soon. That's what we're going to talk about. I think very soon anyway. I think it's more likely than not very soon. All right, Rock and Metal News in chat. Soon Crypto. I haven't seen your name before, man. Welcome to the stream. You always have to be really careful saying that, because at some point I'm going to end up saying that to somebody that has been here before, and I'm going to feel absolutely terrible, because I try and keep track of every single name that I can, because every single one of you are valuable to me, not just the ones that I see in chat every single day. Queen's in chat. Mike Lowry's in chat. Grand Roofing Incorporated is in chat. Mike Lowry is in chat. Omai is in chat. Inrek Suave is in chat. James Wilson, being BTC Crypto Alerts, the Drake equation. Ho, ho, ho. As a former nerd of astrophysics, I love the reference. What would the solution to the Drake equation be if you were solving for Bitcoin? How would you create the Drake equation if you were solving for the price of Bitcoin? Now, that would be awesome, as if we could have a Drake equation for Bitcoin's price. That would be amazing. Maybe we should have Professor Drake come back to life and do that. If any of you guys don't know what the Drake equation is, it's a seven variable long equation that calculates how much sentient life exists in any given galaxy. Definitely a very interesting thing. All right, let's see. We got green names in chat. Enric Suave said 30K first and back down to test 20K in my opinion. Very possible. Sean O'Brien said, oh, I got a real good feeling. That's what he said. Crypto Crew said, hi, Jebb from Australia. Hello. Soon Crypto said, been here a long time, bro. Yeah, see, that's what I was. I am sorry. That's what I was. I knew I was going to end up doing that. I knew as I was saying that was probably a dumb thing to say because as I was saying, I was like, actually, I think I've seen your I've seen your profile picture before. Anyway, Adonis Tabanda Music says it's a good crypto day from the Philippines here. Good day, everybody. CW is here from Cryptosaurus Rex, aka CW. Best part of the morning, along with a cup of Joe. Boom. Love our coffee. I don't drink it every day anymore, but I do love my coffee. All right. Enough dilly-dallying. Let's go ahead and jump on over to Coin Market Cap. Un momento here to make sure I get it, make sure I have it up. Coin Market Cap is the place where we go to analyze all of our favorite cryptocurrencies from a 30,000-foot view. As you guys are well aware, Bitcoin has been rallying substantially. It is currently trading at $28,015. It has rallied 8.4% over the last 7 days, but it's actually down over the last 24 hours. Several cryptocurrencies are actually down over the last 24 hours, despite Bitcoin continuing to trade sideways and rally and test local levels of resistance. Ethereum is not one of them. ETH is sitting at 1820. I do hope to look at Ethereum a little bit closer today because we have neglected to pay as close of attention to it as I would like. One thing I will mention is that Tether is sitting at $76 billion in market capitalization. That is something that we're definitely going to want to keep a close eye on because that is a lot of dry powder sitting on the sidelines, guys. $76 billion is enough to move market capitalization $500 billion if the bears are hibernating. So keep in mind that this kind of money right here, this could launch us into a bull market. This much money deployed into Bitcoin could easily, even if half of this was deployed into Bitcoin over a period of 2 months, could easily send us to $40,000 or $50,000. Now, that normally doesn't happen that quickly, so don't expect that to happen, but I'm just telling you how much power there is there. There is quite a lot. Binance Coin is down 0.18% over the last 24 hours. XRP up 10%. There you go. Doing very, very well today. Has not done very well over the last 2.5 months. Year to date, it's only up 25% there, whereas a lot of other cryptocurrencies have outpaced it, but it is doing pretty well on that front. All right, let's see. So Lana is down. Binance is sitting sideways. It's sitting at $8.1 billion in market capitalization, continuing to shed market cap. Polkadot sitting at rank number 12. Like I said, Dogecoin's up, Matic's up, Cardano sitting at 35 cents. USDC is still pegged and has a $35 billion market capitalization. Now, there are a couple of things here that I want to bring to your attention. Take a look up here at the dominance charts on CoinMarketCap. It's saying that Bitcoin's market dominance is 46%, which is a little bit odd because when you go into the actual market dominance charts here, that's not... Well, actually, I take that back. That is what that says. If you look out here on the weekly chart, it shows that we're sitting at 44.39%. That's what I wanted to show you, actually. It shows that we're sitting at 44.39%, but if you zoom in so you get more detail of the market dominance here, you can see that market dominance for Bitcoin has rallied from just 11 days ago, 41.48%, all the way up to 46.5%. In other words, Bitcoin has gained 5% market dominance in a week and a half. And has done so at the expense of several other, that may be our answer, other cryptocurrencies. For example, the others category has dropped from 17.09% down to 15.91%. That's where 1% of that came from. But Ethereum has dropped from 18.63% down here, just today even, to 18.45%. It had a little bit of a resurgence and then it's been dropping. You can see others like Tether have dropped from 7.67% to 6.55%. Binance Coin has traded sideways, basically. USDC Coin was sitting at 4.63%. You can see it's dropped all the way down to 3.03%. So the stable coins and the other categories are losing market capitalization in a way that is leading to Bitcoin gaining in market capitalization. Even other cryptocurrencies like, I believe that is USDC that I'm seeing drop so quickly there. Yes, it is. USDC, Tether, and the others are dropping very substantially. And the reason that's important is because, as we've talked about, whenever Bitcoin goes into a major bull market, it is normally going to do so. Whenever cryptocurrency goes into a major bull market, I should say, it's normally going to do so with Bitcoin at the front leading. Bitcoin is the kind of general that doesn't sit in the back and call the shots. Bitcoin is the kind of general that is a little bit crazy, has a little bit of Custer in it, and likes to charge from the front and be the spearhead of the cavalry charge. And Bitcoin does that. And that's what Bitcoin has been doing. Bitcoin has been absolutely running away. If you compare ETH USD to Bitcoin, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about if we look over on the daily chart over the last couple of weeks. You can see if we go back here, Ethereum has dropped harder and rallied weaker than Bitcoin in a lot of cases, especially in recent memory. If we go and look at the Ethereum chart, you can see that it has not rallied quite as quickly. Now, it's doing very well for itself, don't get me wrong. But Ethereum, and especially the stablecoins, if I were to bring the stablecoins up here, I'm not going to right now, but if I were to bring the stablecoins up here, actually, we can do that. USDT market cap. I believe there's a way you can look at the USDT market cap. Yes. If you look at the USDT market capitalization, it has been increasing, but not at the same rate that Bitcoin has. You can see that a lot of this market capitalization has come in recently. And that's actually a very good thing because people have deployed a ton of money into the Tether market capitalization. But if you look at it percentage-wise, which I don't think it's going to actually let me do that. I don't think it's going to let me do that for the comparison here. But you can see the percentage-wise, Tether has gained about 10% from $66 billion to $77 billion. You can see that right over here. Whereas Bitcoin in the same time has gained 71%. Bitcoin's running away from Tether, even though Tether is gaining market capitalization. And something to keep in mind here is that Tether is indeed gaining market capitalization. Don't forget about that. Tether gaining market capitalization is actually a pretty big deal because you can just see the Tether chart right here. It is absolutely exploding. It's added $11 billion in market cap very, very rapidly, which is helping for there to be more dry powder on the side. And it's also been put there by profits that people have taken out of other cryptocurrencies. So Bitcoin is running ahead of ETH. It is running ahead of the stablecoins, is running ahead of a lot of its cryptocurrency counterparts and contemporaries. And when Bitcoin does that, again, that generally signals the beginning of a bull market. What's the theory there? Well, the theory basically is that if you have a very unstable world, which anybody that is either interested and learned about geopolitics realizes, or anyone that is rich enough to hire somebody that is, all of those individuals understand the world is changing fundamentally in a way that it has not done in decades. The last time that the world went under this big of a systemic shift was not the pandemic. It was not 2008. It was not even 9/11. It was the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1992. And frankly, what we're going through right now, this transitionary zone on the scale of human history, is a bigger transition than what we saw when the Soviet Union collapsed. Because when the Soviet Union collapsed, that was the end of an era, and about 500 million people and all the allies and satellite states of the Soviet Union started to come online into the globalized world order of free trade and open and free navigation of the high seas. That was the onboarding of people into an era. That was not the beginning of a new era. We're undergoing the end of globalization, the end of an era, the beginning of a new one. The last time that began on this scale was 1945, the day that the bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and a few days later when the Second World War ended. That was the beginning of this era that is now coming to an end. We are at the end of the book, and another book will be written, but we are at the end of a book, not just the end of a chapter. The fall of the Berlin Wall was the end of a chapter. 9/11 was as horrible as it was. It was a chapter. 2008, it was a chapter. This is the end of the book. This is a bookend. And so Bitcoin is going through turbulence right now. How will Bitcoin fare in that? That's one of the framing questions for Bitcoin this decade. That's not just something that's going to be relevant this week, this month, this year. That's going to be relevant this decade because the fabric of human society has to reinvent itself in a fundamentally new way. And we don't know what exactly that's going to look like, because fiction writers have been writing about the future through a sci-fi lens based on the era that we're in, just a little bit more advanced for a very long time. How does this world look when things fundamentally change and different cultures go online and offline and you have to rebase everything? That's a very, very difficult question to answer without just waiting and seeing. So again, how does that impact Bitcoin, and why do I keep talking about geopolitics and human history and macroeconomics? Bitcoin is the solution to financial instability. Let me say that again, and somebody clip it and put it on YouTube. Bitcoin is the solution to financial instability, and the reason that Bitcoin was created was because the writing was on the wall as far back as 2008. Honestly, the writing was on the wall further than that in the past, but Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever he, she, or they were, knew that something was changing in the world and that we would no longer be able to keep up with these bouts of quantitative easing to get us through crisis, with a credit cycle the way that we did, with a gigantic debt market, with people not actually building financial sovereignty for themselves, but building as big of an empire on as many cards as they possibly can on a foundation of nice soft sand and watching the whole thing collapse. It is not good for the world to build on a foundation of anything financially other than financial sovereignty. Satoshi Nakamoto realized that Bitcoin is one of the greatest solutions ever conceived in the history of mankind. Now, how will people see that, though? People see Bitcoin, unfortunately, as a tech stock, which is not what it is. Bitcoin is not a tech stock. Bitcoin is the hedge to the dollar. It is the hedge for the inflation of the dollar. I'm not saying that Bitcoin will take over as the world reserve currency anytime soon. If it does, it will probably take over in the form of as the backing, not as the actual currency itself. But Bitcoin, and I will tell you exactly why. Bitcoin does not have enough transactional throughput or market capitalization to handle $100 trillion worth of transactions every single year. If you can prove to me how Bitcoin could handle a tenth of that, then we can talk. But until you can explain to me how Bitcoin can handle over $10 trillion of GDP, that's not volume, by the way, $10 trillion of gross domestic product, and dozens and dozens of countries around the world could run on it and nothing else without some ridiculously robust layer 2 solution like Lightning, Bitcoin's probably not going to become the world reserve currency, especially considering every world reserve currency in history has been a sovereign currency and one of the sovereign currency of a sovereign nation. And normally, in fact, at every point in the last 700 years, the world reserve currency has been the currency of the most powerful military on the planet. That's one of the things that creates a world reserve currency. It kind of needs to have a military backing. As much as I want to be one of those fanboys that says, oh yeah, Bitcoin's going to take over the dollar, it's going to become a world reserve currency, and I would definitely get a lot of praise for that, I don't personally see how that's feasible, and I would be lying to you if I said I did, and I don't do that. So that's the truth. Anyway, how does all of that impact Bitcoin? Well, Bitcoin, again, should be, and for the most part, is seen by some as a hedge against the instability of the global market. The problem is there's also others that see it as a tech stock. So Bitcoin's in this weird paradigm where it rallies when the stock market rallies. And if you didn't notice on that chart just a minute ago, we drew this this curved line right here, and we said that, look, Bitcoin's probably going to have a difficult time going into a rally, but at some point it probably will break out of this curved resistance level and break to the upside, even if it just trades sideways, because it's going straight down. You can't. It's just not possible to keep going in the way that it had been going. So, of course, eventually we were going to break bullish out of this. It looks like we have today. We actually opened higher than what we had closed yesterday on the SPY at 397. We've dropped about 20 cents or so ever since then. But that has helped Bitcoin lead to the upside just a little bit. Looking on the hourly chart, you can see that Bitcoin initially broke bearish out of this symmetrical triangle pattern, and then it broke bullish, and now we're coming back to backtest the uptrend. What this is telling me is that this whole symmetrical triangle pattern has basically just been completely invalidated. I wouldn't put a whole lot of stock in it whatsoever anymore at this point. I would say that this uptrend is potentially still quite valuable, but the idea of the symmetrical triangle pattern and leading to a big breakout, that was probably not going to happen in the first place just because it was such a small pattern and Bitcoin just was not ready for a major breakout just yet. Now, again, stocks are moving to the upside, so that gives Bitcoin a little bit of encouragement. And of course, if we go to the Dixie over not Dixie over USD, just the Dixie, we can see the Dixie has been moving to the downside over just the last couple of days. I'll show you on the Dixie's chart itself here. If we go over to Dixie, remember the Dixie is the dollar currency index. It is the chart that tracks the strength of the US dollar against a basket of other world reserve currencies, such as the yen, such as the pound sterling, etc., etc. Again, I kind of need a little, I need a button for the explanation of the Dixie, because I always give you guys that exact same rundown when we look at it. The Dixie's been under a major downtrend for the last week. Ever since the 14th, 15th of March, we have seen a 2% drop on the Dixie, about a 2-point drop on the Dixie, but that's likely not going to last forever, because the Dixie has this falling wedge that it has entered into, and currently it's at the bottom of the falling wedge. It is highly likely at this point that the Dixie, especially considering macroeconomic and geopolitical events that would impact the strength of sovereign currencies, the Dixie probably will bounce from some point soon and head up to at least this downtrending level of resistance, which would lead it $0.50, which is what is denoted in $0.50 to the upside, half a point to the upside, if you want to call it that, which would likely make things a little bit harder on Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's in a little bit of a rock and a hard place right now. The stock market's rallying, albeit not very much, and it's not looking too healthy. During this open, look over at the stock market, the last couple of hours since it opened, it has not been doing very well. You can see it opened here at 9:30, rallied slightly. It's been moving to the downside ever since. You look at Bitcoin and you chart it. Let's just bring up the stock market. You can see Bitcoin's been following it almost to the T. This is one of the big theories that we have about the way markets work. If you guys are not familiar with the cryptocurrency markets very much, one of the best things I can tell you to help you analyze them is follow the stock market. Correlate the SPY with the correlate the Bitcoin market with the SPY, and you will get a lot of information. You can see that this line chart is the stock market ever since it opened. You can see it's trading sideways here because it was just closed. You see, it was closed, and it just jumped because it closed here and opened there. Even back to yesterday, when the stock market was open for the 7.5 hours it is, you can see Bitcoin was following it relatively closely in a lot of ways. Looking on it today, so far, Bitcoin has been following the stock market almost exactly. And so if the stock market is the one in the lead, then analyzing the stock market, take a look over here on the minute chart. Let's look at Lux Algo. Boom, sell signal. That's not too helpful. Look at it on the 5-minute chart. It's under a strong buy signal, but it is only there because it jumped so high and broke out above Lux Algo's resistance zone. For everybody who wonders if you can use Lux Algo on the stock market, or if you can use technical analysis on the stock market, Lux Algo is probably used by more people in the stock market, in the stock community now, than it is in cryptocurrency. Oh, and look at that. We just had a sell signal paint on the stock market right now. So for any of you guys that are in stocks, SPY's dropping, and with SPY dropping, that's going to make things a little bit more difficult for Bitcoin. Remember, the question we're trying to answer today is, can Bitcoin go ahead and break through $28,545 now, or will it end up rejecting and pushing to the downside? My answer to that is that we don't really know yet, but I think that Bitcoin's going to have a little bit of a hard time today. Looking at the Dixie, the other thing to keep in mind is that the Dixie also updates by the minute, and Dixie is moving to the upside by the minute. Compare the minute chart Dixie to Bitcoin, and you will see Dixie, even on the minute chart, has a very profound impact on Bitcoin. You can see the correlations here. When Dixie bottomed out, that's very close to the topping outs of Bitcoin. Bitcoin started moving down. Dixie was still moving down, but Bitcoin had already had a major rally, so it needed a correction. Dixie starts trading sideways. Bitcoin's in a sideways movement. Now that Dixie's moving to the upside, Bitcoin is moving to the downside. Bitcoin is so heavily correlated to the stock market and the Dixie, it's not even funny. It really honestly makes my job a little bit too easy, because you just look at it and you say, wow, it's going the opposite direction. So with that in mind, I think Bitcoin's going to have a rough morning. And even as I speak, in just the last 2 minutes, well, Bitcoin is having, how would you say, a rough morning. Bitcoin does have this uptrending level of support that it theoretically could find some, well, how would you say, support from. The tricky thing is, even as we speak, Bitcoin is in the process of breaking below that uptrending level of resistance, that uptrending level of what was support, now resistance, and we just rejected from it. I would say this is probably about the line of best fit that I'm going to be able to get for this uptrending level of support, and Bitcoin just isn't able to hold it. Of course, it's not perfect because we're dealing with a ton of different levels here, but that is about as good as I'm going to be able to get it, and no matter how I draw it, no matter how conservative or bullish I draw it, Bitcoin's below it. So, short-term time frame, Bitcoin is struggling. Minute chart, we're under a confirmed sell signal. 5-minute chart, we just confirmed a sell signal about 10 minutes ago. Broke below the EQ cloud, moving down to the uptrending level of support. If you look at some of our technical indicators, we had a bearish cross on MACD right over here, and then we saw another one right here. Those correlated with these two tops. That should have told you something. That should have told you that Bitcoin was moving to the downside and having a rough time. Then on the minute chart, 5-minute chart, uptrending level of resistance, downtrending level of resistance on RSI. You have a bearish RSI divergence. That correlated with whenever the stock market opened. We saw the stock market struggling. Initially, that's right when the sell signal came in. You should have been able to predict about 30 to 45 minutes ago that Bitcoin was going to have a rough morning. And that's actually what we were doing here, is that I came here to tell you that. And so far, it looks like that's what's playing out. So the question in my mind is, does Bitcoin grow this small correction? Because this is a very small correction. This is a correction of, well, $500 in an hour and a half isn't exactly small, but it is a relatively small correction. Does Bitcoin grow this relatively small correction into a much larger correction? Well, we'll probably start to get some answers with that even just during the course of this live stream. So make sure you stay tuned, because Bitcoin is moving by the minute, by the second. But we can also do some analysis on that. We will see how this 5-minute candlestick closes here in a couple of minutes. But if this closes with a spinning top, then there is a likelihood that we could have a small bounce here. One thing I will note is that we have a red, green, red. This is a red candlestick followed by a non-engulfing green candlestick followed by an engulfing red candlestick. If any of you guys are in principles of technical analysis over here, there are a ton of videos here on candlesticks. You can see psychology of candlesticks, white soldiers and black crows, hammers and shooting stars, and then right here, episode number 21, engulfing candlesticks. This is what we're talking about. We have a red engulfing candlestick. That means that this candlestick to the right is larger than the candlestick prior. Now, this was a spinning top, which could have indicated that we'd have movement to the upside. That, of course, is not what played out. Spinning top may be playing out now, but that could indicate a bounce. It could not. A lot of times it would indicate that there'd be a small corrective rally. But nevertheless, we are likely going to end up seeing Bitcoin move to the downside for a little bit of time here. Now, let's move out to the hourly chart and get some more context on what exactly it is that we're looking at. As you'll remember, I drew this cup and handle formation on, I think, Thursday? It may have been Friday. It might have been Friday, actually. Yes, I believe it was Friday. And I gave you the price target here, that if Bitcoin went through this cup and handle formation, it could rally as far as $30,000. But realistically, when you have a price target and there's a gigantic level of resistance in the way, oftentimes you're just going to rally to the gigantic level of resistance and you'll call that the price target. So we predicted on Friday that Bitcoin would trade up to $28,545. And on Thursday, we predicted it would break $500 billion market capitalization and it would continue to the upside. Now, if you look at this chart right here, I actually predicted, and I drew this line, this drawing right here, on Friday at about 10:30 a.m. I actually drew a vertical line right here to show you when I made this prediction. I made this prediction right here, and so far, it has been playing out very, very well. We made this prediction at this very moment. And you can see on Friday, you can go back to Friday's live stream about halfway through. I drew this and I said, you know what? I'm going to leave this on the chart because I think Bitcoin is probably going to play out something just like this. And the reason I was able to draw this is because we had our resistance level of our uptrending level of resistance right here. It had already been defined by our two levels here. And then we had an uptrending level of support that was the degree was roughly defined. It wasn't fully defined yet. So this was a little bit more general. So then we played forward, and I can just go ahead and show you by pressing play that Bitcoin went ahead and went almost exactly through the pattern as we described, although it was even more bullish than we predicted. So that was wonderful. We saw that it didn't come down here to this uptrending level of support, so we'll just go ahead and draw this a little bit steeper. And it actually broke higher than that level of resistance that we drew. So we'll just go ahead and draw this like right here. But the point is, it went through a rising wedge and it hit the tops right around the time that we denoted right here and right here. You can see that's where we drew those. And then from there, I predicted on Friday that we would probably get up here and test 28.5, and we would likely have difficulty breaking through 28.5. And so, funnily enough, that brings us to where we are today, because I predicted here in this drawing, this is just kind of a rough drawing I did, that we would reject from 28.5 around Tuesday, which is today, and we would probably enter into a correction that would drop us down to at least $26,526, which is the local level of resistance that we set right here on Tuesday, March 14th, or, and frankly, more likely, we would probably fall down to 25,236. Now, I'm going out on a limb and saying this as a prediction because Bitcoin is so very close to 28.5 that anything could rocket us above it. And I want you to keep that in your back pocket, that just about anything could get us above 28,545. But if you're an avid viewer of the live stream, you will recognize the moment in time that we're in, where I'm saying, if we break this resistance, we could go to a very high level. but it kind of seems like we need more of a corrective movement because there's not a lot of bullish catalysts. Now, there's a little bit of a difference in that because Dixie and SPY and the effective federal funds rate drop coming tomorrow, that's a big deal. That could very well be the black swan that takes us well above 28,545. We will talk about that in a moment because that is a factor. But if you're an avid viewer of the stream, as many of you are, you will recognize that my demeanor about the live stream, about the Bitcoin market, is very similar to what you saw out of me exactly a month ago around February the 20th and 21st. And that was me saying, look, guys, and I'll just show you why. I was saying right like here, look, if Bitcoin breaks above 25,236, great. We're probably going to $28,545. Well, guess what? That's where we've gone now. It just took us a month to get there. But there's not a lot of catalysts right now. There's not a lot of bullishness right now. There's not a lot of reasons to believe that the market can break through 25,236 right now. We've already tested it so many times and we haven't been able to get there. And so because of that, we went through a major correction. That major correction so far dropped us all the way down well below $20,000, well below $20,002. Well below $21,500 and dropped us all the way down to $19,500. Now I'm saying something similar, that Bitcoin really needs to find some kind of catalyst to jump it above 28,545 because lest we forget, Bitcoin has rallied, just measure here, Bitcoin has rallied $9,000, almost 50%. It's almost added $150 billion in market capitalization just to itself in 13 days. This is still not a bull market yet, guys. So we still can't rely on that kind of bull market strength. Even during the last bull market, it's not very often that you would see $9,000 added in 11 days. We would see it happen relatively regularly, but it was a difficult thing to do. You saw $12,600 added in 10 days here. Of course, in this span, you saw $24,000 added in 21 days, but in general, you were seeing that was kind of that was an average size rally for the bull market. And we're talking about a bull market where there are probably 5 to 10 times as many retail investors in the space as there are right now. Now here we added $24,000 in 27 days. Yes, you heard that right. $24,000 in 27 days. That was wonderful. But with Bitcoin being this high and us not being in a confirmed bull market and us not having the full attention of the entirety of the world, where CNN, CNBC, Fox News, Yahoo Finance, everybody is talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, Bitcoin doesn't have quite the luxury to be able to say, oh, we just rallied $9,000. Now we just need a 3-day correction and then on to the next. It doesn't work like that. You need more powder. You need more explosiveness. You need the market to really keep moving, and to have a lot of retail pour into it. Just keep in mind, guys, in those last 13 days, the cryptocurrency market has added $270 billion in market cap. That is like 7 Twitters. That's an Elon Musk in value in 2 weeks. So again, the question of the stream is, can Bitcoin break through $28,545 relatively soon? I think there is one thing that could cause Bitcoin to break through $28,545, and to be honest with you, there's a large part of me that wants to say it will, which is I'm definitely having to lean on my intuition because logically I want to say, no, that makes no sense that would cause us to break to the upside, but just intuitively I'm thinking it probably will. What am I talking about? Well, the effective federal funds rate will be dropping tomorrow at, I think, 3 o'clock. Let's look at the Fed funds rate watch tool over on CME Group. CME Fed watch tool. The next FOMC meeting is in 1 day, 4 hours, 25 minutes, 15 seconds. There's an 81.9% likelihood of a 25 basis point rate hike. The market's pretty much priced in a 0.25%. I'm sorry, 0.25%. Yes, I'm sorry, a 25 basis point rate hike into the market. The market's pretty much already guessed that that's what we're going to see. So that has been priced in some, but of course there is still an impact once you actually see the news drop. That's the effective federal funds rate hike that we're going to see. Now, the interesting thing here is this. If we look on our chart here, this is kind of our longer term chart where we just look at longer term trends. I'm going to try and keep this chart for as long as I can without deleting it because I want to see how Bitcoin plays out here. I want to go ahead and measure the EFFR against Bitcoin. Let's take a look at the EFFR. Whenever we've seen a 25 basis point rate hike, as we did here, you can see the effective federal funds rate, 25 basis point rate hike. We saw right there, right there, right here. Right here, we saw a 75 basis point rate hike. Right here, we saw our 50, then we saw our 25. This would be the second 25. The tricky thing here is, guys, I just so want to tell you that the effective federal funds rate coming in at 25 basis points is going to be bullish. And the reason I want to tell you that is because last month, people were very excited, or 2 months ago, and well, actually, it was February 1st, I think is when it happened. Last EFFR hike, nevertheless, people were very excited that it was only 25 basis points, and it actually, in a way, led to some bullish sentiment in the space. Unfortunately, that bullish sentiment was not enough to lead to bullish price action. As you'll notice here, when the EFFR came in, Bitcoin dropped substantially. It dropped 10% in 11 days. When we saw the 50 basis point rate hike, we saw Bitcoin drop 8% in 6 days. When we saw this effective federal funds rate hike come in, the 75 basis point, Bitcoin actually rallied 6.5% in the span of 2 days, but then it went through a 26% drop. Now, of course, FTX collapsed on November the 8th, so that corrupts that data a little bit. But in general here, you're not going to find too many times where the effective federal funds rate has come out and it hasn't caused or at least correlated with a massive crash. You can see the effective federal funds rate hiking right here. That was correlated with a gigantic correction. The 50 basis point, the first 75 basis point, that's the first 50 basis point rate hike right here led to a massive correction. And if you go back to the first 25 basis point, well, people were actually kind of excited about that because the interest rates were at zero for so long before that. You can see they were at zero right here before the pandemic. Now, when those effective federal funds rate those rates do inevitably start coming down at some point in the future, that will probably be a bullish scenario. But the thing I want to draw your attention to is that a lot of people were only excited about this 25 basis point rate hike because it was only a 25 basis point rate hike. People were so excited about it because they saw that the Fed was starting to slow down the hiking of rates. That's not the case anymore. If we see, and we almost certainly will see, another 25 basis point rate hike, then what's going to happen is you're going to end up seeing people get scared, because if the effective federal funds rate hikes another 25 basis points, which the majority of the public does not know, they're going to get that news tomorrow. The majority of people in cryptocurrency don't know that. They're going to get that news tomorrow. That's probably going to lead to fear in the cryptocurrency space, because the thing that I've been telling you guys for a while, that the Fed will probably plateau rates at maybe 5%, but there's a good chance they could go to 6 to 7% as a result of the unwinding of everything and them trying to control that with funds rates, overnight bank transfers. Them trying to control that, they're going to have to raise interest rates even farther to get inflation under control. They're not going to be happy with 3 to 4% inflation. They're going to want to fight that. They're going to want to keep that as low as possible. And the problem that I outlined yesterday, so I won't go into too much detail on it because I don't want to repeat myself too much, but one of the big problems is that the Fed does not have the tools to combat the kind of inflation that's coming, because there's two different kinds of inflation. This is a bit of a side note, but we'll talk about it for a moment. You have economic inflation that is driven by economic and monetary policy, that being the printing of money, that being the amount of debt that is in the market, that being the size of the balance sheet. Then you also have geopolitical and, mainly basically geopolitical and politically driven inflation. What do I mean by that? Well, that's not inflation that's driven by the balance sheet changing or by let's say the effective federal funds rate changing or anything to do with policy that's set. Political and geopolitical inflation is driven by things that are happening in the real world, not on Wall Street, but on Main Street. During the pandemic crisis, there were both. There was inflation that was driven by political and geopolitical realities, that being that the political systems of the world had shut down international travel, and they'd also shut down, for the most part, international shipping. So, and through the lockdown. So that led to huge amounts of inflation, because if you wanted to buy toilet paper, all of a sudden either you couldn't get it or you had to buy it from some swindler on Facebook Marketplace for 5 times more than it was worth, just because you wanted to go to the bathroom. Right? That's politically driven inflation, or, lumping into that category, that's act of God driven inflation, or act of scientists in Wuhan, whatever you want to say, or act of a wet market in Wuhan, whichever theory you subscribe to. I personally have no idea. I'm not wading into that controversy. The point is that is not monetary policy that's driving inflation. That is a force of nature driving inflation. That is the unwinding of supply chains driving inflation. Then, of course, to combat that inflation, the Fed caused more inflation because let's fight fire with fire. That's what the Fed said. And so they printed a lot of money, dropped the interest rates to zero instantly overnight, and that led to a massive amount of inflation. Now, the effects of the pandemic are 90% done. People are going on cruises again. People are flying all over the world again. Lockdowns are over. California finally lifted its emergency declaration, which means politically and legally the pandemic is over in the United States in all 50 states. That was a couple of months ago. So the pandemic's over. In theory, there's still plenty of people to get the virus that shall not be said on YouTube. However, politically it's over. So the political effects of that on inflation are over. Now the inflation that we're seeing that is still going on is due to monetary policy, which the Fed is trying to get under control based on the effective federal funds rate and the shrinking of the balance sheet. That is something that they can control. The problem is the Fed cannot control things like the pandemic, so they can't actually fix those problems. They can only put Band-Aids on them. And there's a much more insidious disruption coming. And that is the destruction, and I say this every single stream because you need to know it. We're looking at the disintegration of the fabric of globalization. And if you are a blue-collar worker and you work in a iron refinery, or you work in a coal mine, or if you work in a factory in the United States, the end of globalization sounds like a good thing to you. And frankly, it probably is a good thing to you because there's probably more factories and more factory jobs and more raises and more leverage for the union workers, if you will, coming to the United States. But if you're anybody else, the end of globalization is catastrophic because it means everything that you purchase gets more expensive. Your standard of living goes down. It gets far more difficult to supply yourself with the goodies that you're so used to, like your fancy smartphone and your fancy MacBook. Hey, I'm no different than the guys that I'm talking about here. And your fancy plastic water bottle that was that was created in China and then rode a shipping cargo ship across the Pacific Ocean over here. Those kind of items are very much more difficult to reproduce whenever you get into a deglobalized environment, which means that Facebook Marketplace is going to end up being very successful, but the rest of business likely won't. That leads to a kind of inflation that the Fed cannot fix. So the Fed has to end up raising rates much higher to have any kind of impact on that. And they have to potentially reverse the decrease in the rolling off of the balance sheet and actually start printing money again to stimulate the economy over the next 5 years as we have to rebuild the entire manufacturing supply chain for in the United States and Mexico, and some of it in Canada, for the most part in Southeastern America and in Mexico. That's a tall order. That is going to drive a lot of inflation, and the Fed is going to see inflation, and they're going to say, there's inflation, we need to raise the rates, and they will continue to raise the rates. So you probably won't see the rates stop at 25 basis points. You probably won't see the rates stop at 5%. You'll probably see them continue. So we're probably going to see this cycle of a lot of fund rates coming in at 25 basis points over the course of the next several meetings. Now, of course, if you want to know the meetings, you just come here. Next one after tomorrow's meeting is May 3rd, then 14th of June, 26th of July, 20th of September, 1st of November, 13th of December, 2023. Those are our meetings. Historically, as you can see, every time we've seen a meeting take place, it has led to a drop in Bitcoin. And by the way, it also makes the housing market a lot more difficult, which means that if people can't afford to live, they definitely can't afford to buy Bitcoin. Now, if you're already in a house, you've already got a good rate. Like for us, we got a pretty decent rate. We bought our house. I'll just show you here on the effective federal funds rate, actually. I'll plot when we bought our house. We bought our house right about here, May 31st. So the effective federal funds rate was only at 0.82%. But I knew that it was coming up here to 5%. So I'm like, we need to just go ahead and buy our house now. And then if we buy our house now, we'll lock in a low interest rate and we'll have a lower payment and be able to get more of a house that will likely be a better investment in the long run and that will be a cheaper payment. So we bought our house then. So we're okay. But a lot of people are trying to buy houses right now and they're like, golly, I'm having to pay 70 or 80% of my monthly payment in the form of interest. I can't afford that. So if they're trying to buy a house for their 3 kids and they can't afford it, then they have less money to put into Bitcoin because they have a higher housing payment. So there's a lot of implications here on the effective federal funds rate, but one of them is that with the effective federal funds rate hiking 25 basis points tomorrow, that could lead to a correction in Bitcoin. And so that's how this all kind of ties full circle. I was talking about the macro and how if the effective federal funds rate works and the reason that works and all of that. The point is that for the effective federal funds rate to have an impact on Bitcoin, the effective federal funds rate does have an impact on Bitcoin, and a lot of times it is not the most positive impact as much as we would like it to be. So, looking at the chart, what does that tell us? Well, we have 2 spinning tops right here on the last 2 days. We're seeing the effective federal funds rate come in tomorrow. It'll be a 25 basis point rate hike. Generally, that leads to some FUD in the market. Sometimes it leads to bullish sentiment, but bearish price action, which is odd. You don't see that happen very often. Normally, those two line up. Those are almost synonymous, but in this case, in this kind of news, it's not. You also see that the MACD is converging bearish on itself right now and has been over the last 2 days. And you also see on Lux Algo that the market is sitting right up here at the bottom of the reversal zone. If Bitcoin's going to reject anywhere, it's probably going to reject off of the bottom of the reversal zone or off the top. So it's possible that it rallies up to $32,000. And by the way, to the title of this video, if Bitcoin breaks above 28,545, it probably will rally 4,000. By the way, this is where the title came from. If Bitcoin rallies above this level, it probably will rally $4,000 up to $32,500 because that's going to be where the top of the reversal zone is. Just so you know, that's where the title came from. I didn't just make up a title. That's what I'm talking about. However, unfortunately, the likelihood, and this is a very, very, very difficult thing for me to say because I don't want to be bearish at the top. But I have been before, and I've been bearish a few days too early, and people made fun of me, but then a couple days later it happened, and they should have listened to me. Bitcoin is going to undergo some kind of correction soon. The question is, how will it be impacted by the effective federal funds rate? Historically, so I'm going to hide behind the technical analysis here for a second. Historically, Bitcoin does not fare the best when we see the effective federal funds rate come in. You can see that here. We didn't fare very well after we had seen a rally in January post CPI data coming out. January the 12th, we saw CPI data coming out. February the 1st, we saw the effective federal funds rate came out. We rallied on the CPI news, corrected on the Fed rate. We have rallied on the CPI news, and maybe now we're going to correct on the funds rate. We shall see. I personally would recommend being very careful about trading right now, and the reason is that we're kind of in a no-trade zone. If you want to go into a long, what are you doing going into a long before we break out? If you want to go into a short, what are you doing going into a short when we're in the middle of a giant and extremely powerful rally? This is a moment where you would be best off waiting for either a break to the upside above 28.5, and then you could have confirmation to go into a long, and you'd likely make a lot of money, or having confirmation to enter into a short. This right now, my friends, and this is why it's kind of hard for me to sit here and give you an exact prediction, this is a no-trade zone because Bitcoin really does just have to sit here and wait. Somewhere like right here, yeah, we're in a rally. It's confirmed. Great. Right now, we are in a rock and a hard place, and we're just going to have to see which one breaks first. All right. Hopefully you enjoyed the technical analysis today. Any questions you guys have, we'll now open the stage for that. We have almost 1,100 people watching, so I want to ask you guys a favor. If you would, pretty please, would you hit that like button? Let's get to 500 likes before the stream wraps out. I know we can. Thank you all for tuning in. We've got a couple of super chats. We've actually got 3. The first one was a member chat from Green Names, who's been a member for 9 months. Thank you, Green Names, for that. He said, hi, Jebb, could you make a 5-year moving average and can show us how to do it on TradingView? It'll help me spread the value proposition of Bitcoin. Thanks. For sure, I can definitely do that. Let's go ahead and jump on over to the BLX Brave New Coin Liquid Index for Bitcoin. We'll go out to the monthly chart. Very simply, all you would do, you go to the monthly chart, and how many months are in 5 years? Well, for any of you who have ever bought a car with a 5-year loan, you'll know that that is 72, right? 72? Am I being stupid? 72. No, I'm sorry. It would be 60. I don't know why I said 72. It'd be 60. 60 months. 60 months here is going to be your number because you divide 60 by 5 and you're going to get 12. There's 12 months in a year. So we get a 60-month moving average here. And you can see that's basically our 5-year moving average. Now, if you want to do that on the weekly chart, then you just multiply 52 times... just multiply 52 times 5. What would that be? That'd be 260. So if you want to do that on the weekly chart, then you come here, you get a 260-week moving average, and you go and plot it, and then you could see that would end up being the exact same line. It literally is going to be an identical line. I'll show you here. So here, 60 months, 260 weeks. Take a look at this line. We'll go to this chart because it's a little bit cleaner. You see this on the weekly chart, this red line right here will represent, actually we'll go to BLX. This red line right here will represent a 5-year moving average. On the monthly chart, this line just completely and totally replaces the perfect same line. It has never moved down. This line has never one time ever moved down, which means that there has never been a point in the entire history of Bitcoin where the market has been worth less 5 years on than it was on average 5 years ago. Now, we did come close because at one point here, we were less than $20,000 almost 5 years after the 20K all-time high that we set in December 2017. Now, that is going to end up happening. You probably will end up seeing bear markets that deep and that far in the future as Bitcoin continues to mature. But in general, the trend has always been to the upside, very much so, and you can see it's actually curving to the upside again because now we're above the 5-year moving average, which is great. We came down here and we actually kind of tested it as support. To be honest with you, this is almost a level of support that we ought to begin paying attention to. Wonderful question. Wonderful, wonderful question. You literally just grab a moving average and figure out how much 5 years is in the form of weeks, months, or days, and then there you go. Alrighty, let's see. We also have a couple of other super chats I want to read. Cardonian. Thank you so much, Cardonian. Donated $1.99. Thank you very much, Cardonian. Really appreciate that and all of your continued support. Shadrach Frost said a little earlier, wow, 868 viewers and only 182 likes. Come on, folks, smash the like button and give some respect for Jebb's work. Thank you so much, Shadrach, and thank you for your continued support. And also thank you to Rick4962, a very long fan and subscriber of the channel. Said, Yard Dog from Knoxville. Good to see you, Yard Dog. Tennessee, from Knoxville, Tennessee. I used to live in Knoxville, Tennessee. Prayers to you and your family. Our Heavenly Father, please watch over us. Amen to you, Rick. Amen to you, Yard Dog. Thank you so very much for your support. Thank you so very much for your support. I've got a story. Who wants to hear a story? I have a story about how my car got scratched yesterday, and it actually ended up being the best, the highlight of my day. So if you guys would like a story, let me know. I won't tell it unless I get a bunch of people telling me they want to hear it, but I was pretty excited about it. CBD Study said, but we are hedging our bets. We are spreading our hard-earned money around. We know they are doomed and they won't wait around to fix it. We need Bitcoin. We need Christ, but we definitely need Bitcoin too. Christ far more than Bitcoin. Shannon Sharp said, Bangladesh, Jebb, lol. Jokes, there you go. Let's see. You know you can say that again, right? Corey said, I don't know. I'm a little bit... The last time that I said that on stream, the channel got taken down for a week. That was 3 years ago. I don't know. It's also kind of funny to have a that which must not be named on the stream. All right. GF said, no, thank you. We don't care. Okay, there you go. Shadrach Frost said, let's hear the story. Mario De Leon says it needs to be told. Oh, Mario. Well, Mario heard the story already. Shout out to you, Mario. Mario heard the story in office hours last night. All right. I'll tell the story here. We were doing a little bit of a home improvement project. And before I say this story is, it's gonna make me look like a good guy, but I am not a good guy. I was a sinner and a desperately in need of Jesus Christ. I don't want any of the glory from this story. All right, I'm not telling this story to pat myself on the back. I'm telling this story to share with you the goodness of my King, and his name is Jesus. All right, so we were doing a home improvement project. We had to go to Home Depot. So we had some Home Depot stuff, and we were going to go and build these shelves. I'll show you. There's these shelves in our kids' room that we are building, and the shelves don't fit. So to make the shelves fit, just go ahead and cover up the picture of my son. I don't know if you guys will be able to see this, but I don't know if you can see that. I don't know if it actually tuned in. Let me see. Just do like this. I don't know if you can see these shelves. See? So there's some shelves there in our kids' room, and they don't fit. Literally, they are too big. They do not fit against the wall. So I had to actually pick the two 3x3 cubbies up off the ground so that they were above the baseboard. That way, all three of the dresser in the middle and the two shelves on either side would fit. So we're building these little stands. So we had this stuff, and we were going to go home, and I was going to build it because I have a little bit of a background in carpentry, and we're going to build it, paint it, and put it in there. So we thought, you know what, this is fun. Let's get some coffee and let's get some donuts. So we decide we're going to go through Dunkin' Donuts. And there's this Dunkin' Donuts that we go to every once in a while here by the office. A couple minutes here because we're right across the street from the Home Depot. Then going back to the house, we were going to get some donuts. And so we pull into Dunkin' Donuts. And for the first time in my entire life, I did this. I've never done this before in my entire life. And I probably should because it's a polite thing to do. I learned yesterday. We didn't know what we want. We knew we wanted a drink, and we knew what drink we wanted, but we didn't know what donuts we want. So we sat there, my wife and I were together, and we thought about the donuts we want. But there was this vintage 1990s Jaguar. I'm going to show you what car this was. There's this vintage 1990s Jaguar that pulls in behind us. And I don't know my Jaguars as well as I do my Corvettes or anything, but it was probably 30 to 35, maybe 40 years old. I think it was this one. I think it was this vehicle. I believe it was this vehicle, XJ12. Anyway, it's a nice car. And I could tell that it was old enough to be an antique. And it was in mint condition. Perfect condition. So we pull out of the way. So this Jaguar, this Jag, could go ahead and go through the drive-thru at Dunkin'. So they pull through the drive-thru, and they go through, and they're only there for about 10 seconds. They get their coffee, they go. So we sit there for another second, and then we pull back in the line, and we're pulling in the line. We see this lady who's taking out the trash and putting it in the dumpster. So you know how you have these big dumpsters behind different stores like that? And you have the three sides with the concrete blocks, and then in the front you have these gigantic, like 14-foot long fence gates, and there's two of them, and they open. Well, it's a windy day, and she's out there throwing the trash away. So we pull into the line, and I tell them what kind of drink we want. I wanted a caramel craze signature iced latte with caffeine and oat milk, and my wife wanted the same thing, but with regular milk and decaf, right? So that's what we were getting, because I don't drink coffee hardly anymore, but I like to treat myself every once in a while with some calories that I definitely don't need. So we get the drink. I'm sitting there and I'm saying, I'm humming and hawing about what donuts we want. I'm talking to my wife because apparently we hadn't actually decided. And I hear this giant crash. Now, the problem is we have these 1x4, these studs. They're 8-foot long 1x4 boards, and they're hanging out the driver's side back window, and they're down in front of the passenger side seat. So my wife, of course, normally sits in the front seat with me. She's sitting in the back driver's side seat. And so I hear this the back passenger side seat. So I hear this big crash over my shoulder right where my wife, who is almost 36 weeks pregnant, is. So I go, "Are you okay?" And so she's fine. And then I'm looking around like, what was that noise? Because the whole car shook. It felt like an earthquake. And that fence gate had gotten caught by the wind, because it was like 10, 15 mile an hour wind outside. Just boom! Slammed straight into the car with full force. And you know, those gates weigh like 300 or 400 pounds. So I'm like, oh. So the lady, remember, she was throwing the trash away. And again, I hesitate. I thought all night about telling this story. And I started not to, because I don't want you guys to think I'm bragging, because I'm not. That's not the reason I'm telling the story. I would much prefer if this was somebody else's story, because then I'd be more comfortable telling it. But anyway, slam. Hits the car. And so I'm like, I realized very quickly what had happened. It all went through my head in about 2 seconds. That lady didn't secure the gate. And to be honest with you, a lot of people would fire an employee for making that kind of mistake, because for damaging a customer's car. So I tell the lady that, which obviously I don't want that to happen. So I tell the lady that I'm ordering from that there's no camera there, so she can't see me. But I tell the lady there, hang on a second, I'll be right back. She's probably like, what? You're ordering donuts. Where are you going? So I got out of the car, walked around, and I moved the fence gate, and I had to give it a lot of force to get it out of the way, because it was jammed in there in the car, and I thought it dented the car, and there was just scratches and scrapes all up and down that one side of the car right where the gate hit it, because it was corrugated metal, steel, the steel bar, you know, on the sides, like it's a steel pipe. That's how they build that, and then they have chain link fence and then the slats through it. So I got out, pushed that out of the way, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like walking around to the driver's side and the passenger side and the driver's side and the passenger side, inspecting the auto body to see if there was a dent, because there was a lot of scratches, but I wasn't sure if there was a dent, and I thought there was. And so then I look over, and the poor lady, and I come to find out her name's Kylie, the poor lady, Kylie, is standing there with this look of abject terror. Because we have a relatively new car. We have a 2020 Camry, very, very new car. You know, not a fancy look, but a newer car. And so she's over there holding on to her trash can with the trash in that she was about to take out. She had just gone and gotten another one, and she watched the whole thing happen. And she's just looking there like, and I felt so bad. And so I walked over to her, and I told her, hey, listen, I'm not upset. Accidents happen. I don't want you to get in trouble. So let's just keep this between us. Like I said, how did I say it? I said, hey, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Accidents happen. I don't want you to get in trouble, so we're not going to say anything. But I just want you to know that the only reason that I can be this generous is because the Lord Jesus Christ was so generous with me, because I was a sinner and I absolutely needed saving. And I've done way, way worse than scratching somebody's car. So I just want you to know Jesus loves you, and don't worry about it. So I walked over and got in the car, and I was on cloud nine. I was so happy. This was literally the highlight of my day yesterday. And so I got in the car, and I'm beaming eye to eye because I got to share the gospel with this lady and you know, hopefully make her day when normally it would have been ruined. And so I got back in, ordered our donuts, and I drove around, and we picked up our donuts, and they handed us our drink and everything. And I told the lady, there was a different lady standing there. Who was that lady that was back there throwing trash away just a minute ago? Because I just wanted to let you guys, I want to put in a good word for her. I wanted to let you guys know that she just had a big smile, and she was so kind, and I just wanted her to know that the Lord Jesus loves her. And she says, yeah, that was probably Kylie. She's standing right here. And so she heard what I said. And so anyway, we got our donuts and left, and I've just been thinking about it ever since, because most people in that situation would have done one or two things. One, they would have gotten out and started yelling at the poor lady, which she was terrified. When I walked over to her, she was like, she just kept saying, sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Gosh, it breaks my heart. It just, ow, it breaks my heart. Anyway, you see why I hesitated to tell this story, because I don't want to tell this story for the sake of bragging. I'm going to tell you why I told this story in a second. Anyway, so we drive away, and I thought about it all day, and I thought about it about an hour later, and I realized that if we had not, for some reason, pulled out of the line to look at what donuts we wanted, then the car that would have gotten hit would have been the vintage Jaguar. It would have been that old, pristine Jaguar that's probably 30 years old and probably somebody's, probably some retiree's project car. And I don't want to judge whoever was driving the car, but, it would definitely be a temptation for somebody if they had a giant scratch on their vintage Jaguar to get frustrated or get angry at the poor lady who was very sensitive. I mean, she was terrified. And so I was just so thankful that it happened to us and not to the Jaguar, because I realized, I thought about the timing. I'm like, we took a long time to order donuts. The timing would have lined up that would have hit the Jaguar, not us, if we hadn't pulled out a line. And I was so thankful that it was us, because I realized as soon as I looked back there, and it all computed in my head at the same moment, that gate hit us, and it was that lady's fault. And I'm not mad at her, obviously, but it was her fault, because she should have secured it. I mean, that's kind of part of the job. That if I said anything, if I said, hey, could you guys give us like free donuts for a month? Or, hey, can we take it to the shop and can you guys pay for it? She would have either, one, gotten fired, probably, and she probably is making minimum wage working at Dunkin' Donuts, or two, she would have at least had the repair bill taken out of her paycheck. Now, maybe not. I don't know how Dunkin' Donuts works corporate, but it probably would not have been very good for her. But I'm just so very thankful that we had the opportunity to preach the gospel to her and to show her the generosity of Christ, because that's the kind of generosity he had with me. I was such a horrible sinner, and I still make mistakes. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm perfect. I'm definitely not. But I was a wretched human being before Jesus Christ came into my life, and I desperately needed a savior. And he came into my life, and he was way more generous with me than he enabled me to be yesterday to that lady. And so that's just that's the truth of the matter that I want to share with you about what happened yesterday. And it was a very exciting moment for me, and I bear that scar on our car with pride. And I'm honestly not in that big of a hurry to fix it, other than I don't want the door to rust, because it did scratch straight through the paint in several places. So I might make sure it doesn't rust, but I'm not in too big of a hurry for it to go back to looking normal, because I want to be able to share hopefully an inspiring story with you guys. Like I said, I wish that that was somebody else's story, because I don't want to just tell a story and get myself brownie points. That's not why I told the story. I tell that story because I want to share with you guys the love of Christ and what he did in my life, because that's a lot like what he did in my life. I did a whole lot worse than scratching somebody's 2020 Camry, but I'll tell you what, he had generosity with me, and he had so much generosity with me to die for my sins and to save me. And so I'm very thankful for him, and he's the most important thing in my life. And I just want to share with you that story. There you go. Eric Wallace said that one girl is lucky Jebb did not report to Dunkin' Donuts. That's the thing. I don't think anybody in the store knew what happened. I have a feeling that she went around and told her coworkers what happened. because she just had this look of terror and then this look of just straight gratitude after I put in that good word for her. No, not shame on anybody. No. I've made much worse mistakes. Believe me, I've made much worse mistakes. There's another scratch on the car that I accidentally put there. Jebb, you just snitched on her. Ah. No. All right, well, I'm going to read chat here for just a minute, and then we're going to go ahead and wrap it out. Jonathan Weiner said, first time I've seen a fellow born-again Christian into and supporting crypto. It's so refreshing. Subscribing now. God bless. Well, thank you, Jonathan Weiner. I believe it's Weiner. I'm sorry. I was thinking of, I believe it's Weiner. Thank you so much for that, and appreciate you for your subscription. I do not think Bitcoin will go to 4,000. No, I'm not saying Bitcoin will go to 4,000. I was saying Bitcoin will go $4,000 to the upside. I'm My Hero said, I got T-boned a couple weeks ago by a 2019 Jag, but the girl had no insurance either. Whew, that's illegal in Florida. I'm not sure about anywhere else. Queen said, love you, Pastor Jebb and fam. Draco75 said, man, I can't believe you almost stopped doing this. You're the best at what you do. Thank you for your hard work and your kind words inspiring us. Thank you so much. Silent said, yes, story. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the story. Like I said, I'll tell it a 10th time. I did not want to tell that just to brag. I wanted to share with you what life looks like if you were acting like the Lord King Jesus. And I don't know if you would have gotten out of the car and yelled at her, but I guarantee you, I promise you, if you were that poor lady, you would have wanted the reaction that I gave, not getting yelled at. And I'm not a good person. The Bible tells us to have no confidence in the flesh. I am not a good person in my flesh. The only good works that I have are good works that the Lord Jesus Christ has come into my life and allowed me to do. Let's see. Hey, Jebb, will you ever open up to us about your past and the road that led you to Jesus Christ? I've told a lot of it, but I suppose there is quite a lot of it that I haven't told. But guys, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you in brief. I was angry. I was bitter, and I was rude. I was mean. I cared about people, and I suppose if I had a strong suit, it was that I was compassionate. But I definitely needed a savior to save me from myself. And I probably will tell more about it in the future. Hey, Jebb, remember your motorbike accident before? Yes, I do remember that. Yeah, I definitely remember that. Yeah, of course I do. I have a baseball dent in my hood. My story is too short. Uh-oh. I'm sorry. Thomas Post said, you're a good man. Well, thank you, Thomas Post. Lord Nevessa said, Jebb, is Bitcoin going up in value more due to people buying into Bitcoin, or is because it's trying to maintain its buying power against US dollar? It's likely a lot of both, to be honest. I'm going to read just a couple more chats. We're going to wrap out here in the next 2 minutes. Angelo said, happened to me. I hit a vintage Porsche and company paid for the damage, and I got terminated a day after. Lol. Yeah, that's normally what happens. You break somebody's car and you lose your job. So I really hope the lady didn't lose her job. There's a security camera back there, but security cameras aren't monitored 24/7. So I hope nobody saw it, and she had the choice to tell the story or not. Nobody from Dunkin's Donuts ever going to see this stream, so whatever. Siobhan Golay said, Jebb, joined here late. How are you doing, Jebb? Bitcoin still sitting in accumulation zone as it did around 17K. Yep, pretty much. Relaxation Music Certified. Jebb, I was subscribed months before your motorbike accident. That was quite a while, right? Yes, that is quite a while. I had that crash at the end of 2019, October of 2019, I believe it was. It might have been in November. I think it was October of 2019. Maybe September, somewhere in there. All right, guys. Well, we are going to go ahead and wrap it out. Again, guys, I don't want any of the glory or appreciation or anything for that story. I want it to go to the Lord Jesus because he's the one that would act like that just because he's being himself. Me being myself, I would have been bitter or, anything that you see good in me, I don't want credit for. I want Jesus to have credit for it because there is nothing good in this world that is apart from the Lord Jesus Christ. And whenever somebody does something good, that's because they're acting like Christ and not like the flesh. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I am really excited to bring you a live stream tomorrow where we will see how the effective federal funds rate increase will impact the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market. Thank you guys so very much. Hi, I'm from Dunkin' Donuts Corporate. Well, you guys don't know what store it was. There's a lot of Kylies in the world. Anyway, really appreciate you guys. I am going to have to go, but before I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.